Okay, yeah, let's not play in the makeup anymore. Oh my god. Oh wow.
I see brightness in my future.
So, May is Mental Health Month in Canada, and I have been immersing myself in my own mental health needs. Now, firstly, having to change my career and being in limbo about how exactly I'm going to move on while being middle aged is really frightening, but it's also quite inspiring. I'm looking forward to the next chapter with zeal and a lot of nervousness. Now, having said that, I'll be doing a lot of videos on mental health and middle-aged things like career changes, hormones, dating, and all thumbs like a home decor kind of segment, because I am no longer pushing to buy my dream farm right now until I figure out how I'm going to be more financially stable in this season of my life. And listen, child, my ghetto ass home is getting on my nerves, can I tell you? Now, don't come for me when I do my dollar store updates and hauls, okay? Because I'm telling you the truth. DIY and decor is not my ministry, sis. I am staying in my lane, all right? So with that, let's get into the video. If you like genuine self-improvement and self-growth with information on how to be happier in your circumstances, no matter what age or stage you're in, then subscribe to the channel and follow along with my content and with my personal growth. So, I broke my posting streak last week because I noticed that I was falling back into the stress-related kind of behavior that was delaying my healing and causing me to become less competent and confident in my life. So as my therapy goes on and my healing journey strengthens, I notice how much I have to accept about myself and reject from others to remain on this journey without overdoing and overthinking. Of course, there is no point in me not practicing what I'm preaching, so I wanted to become more aligned with my ideals, of self-love, self-care, self-acceptance, and self-improvement. So that's what I did. So let's get into it. So today we are talking about mental health crisis and emergency. So all over social media, the self-care, mental health, and well-being buzzwords are being thrown around, but still so many people are burnt out and bitter and emotionally broke. So for this video, I will be discussing signs of a mental health crisis, which I've done before, but this time I'm going to talk about what you can do for yourself and others if you're in a mental health crisis, and additionally, if you're in a mental health emergency. So let me explain with a personal example. I am a chronic overdoer. I do the most for everyone I care about, including worrying and trying to take on their problems. I overwork because I have been insecure about being significant and accepted, and it was my way of showing my worth or that I can be loved. It's a deficiency, let's be clear. Additionally, lately my self-talk has been deteriorating as I face rejection after rejection in the work field and loss of income, processing power, and my brain power. As a result of the stress of my changing circumstances and just the regularness of things like bills and being a single parent and, the pressing day-to-day things, I've been feeling myself becoming more irritable. I was starting to take a drink before bed so I could sleep, and I was withdrawing from things that I like doing. Now, those are signs of mental health distress or crisis. So I stopped everything, assessed my behaviors, and realized that I was repeating the very things that got me into the hospital, holed up for 10 days with brain damaging illness. So my therapist says I have to accept that I'm disabled. It was a shocking thought because despite the disorientation and loss of memory and the slow processing and the slow speech and the word searching symptoms, I told myself that I was okay, that I'm gonna beat this. It reminds me of a scene in the pandemic zombie thriller on Netflix, where the zombies are repeating phrases that reflect who they were before they turned. And this one guy kept saying, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. It's really, really intense. So I stopped. I stopped saying yes to everyone and everything, hoping to be accepted, loved, seen, or whatever it was that I was seeking for. And I started accepting help. You see, I was not okay. Or for the most part, I was not okay working minimum wage and doing the work of 2 people, and I needed to transition into a more manageable situation instead of stretching myself thin to fit into other people's perspective of me. And this is where the assessment of our mental health comes in. However, the fact is, some people may not be aware that they are in crisis as they're too busy trying to cope, or they're trying to deny their situations. As their loved ones, we might be able to see that they're in danger and we might be able to say something, but how do we go about doing that without escalating the situation or making it worse? So first of all, if we are on the threshold of a breakdown or a burnout, we are not able to empathize with the people in our lives who are having a hard time. In fact, we just don't have the capacity to even see their struggles without biases or judging them based on our own strengths. Being a mental health advocate dictates that you pay attention to your mental well-being. It's the fill your cup up first and put your mask on first before taking care of others, or you could end up doing more damage. So introspection and honesty is key if you want to be there for someone. Secondly, reaching out for help is difficult. People might not know what's happening, or they might feel ashamed that they cannot get it together. At my worst point, I reached out to my wonderful brother, Brooksy, my soulmate, my man. He sat and cried with me. And listen, this boy don't cry. He too gangsta. And then he reminded me of the strength I gave to everybody else for so long. You see, it was very helpful for me to be reminded that at one point I did have the ability to hold it together and help others. And my breakdown showed me that the mental toughness I displayed for so many years has been a facade. It was a facade for the fear that I have of being insignificant, and a way to apologize for the space I was taking up with my big, loud, black self. You see, being the strong, independent woman is the show we put on to shut up the policing of either ourselves or the single parenthood, in my case, my lack of community and my failures. It's as if I was trying to outshine everyone so that they were blinded to my shortcomings because, God knows there are a lot. I assessed that I was in a mental health crisis and that I needed help. So a mental health crisis can be defined as any situation in which a person's actions, feelings, and behaviors can lead to them hurting themselves or others, or put them at risk of being unable to care for themselves or to function in the community in a healthy manner. I was in a crisis. So when assessing if someone is in a crisis, there are many signs to look for or to listen for. One of them is they are unable to complete daily tasks like getting dressed, brushing their teeth, bathing, etc. They're verbally saying or writing or insinuating that they would like to self-harm, or they're talking about death a lot. They're withdrawing from their friends and family and their typical social situations. They're showing impulsive and reckless behavior, like being aggressive. They're having shifts in mood, sleeping or eating patterns, substance abuse or misuse, and self-medicating. Okay, now let's talk about the steps to assess and offer assistance from an advocating and empathetic point of view. The first step is to assess and assist. Ask yourself first, how am I doing really? How am I really feeling, honestly? Am I truly able to have this discussion with my friend or colleague or peer or client without judgment? Am I seeing the situation from a prejudiced or biased lens? Additionally, if you are seeking assistance or offering help, ask yourself, am I able to feel what this person feels, or am I feeling pity? The difference between empathy and sympathy is vast and very significant. When you're empathetic to others, you are able to walk in the person's shoe, experience their feelings, and hold a safe space for them to express and to slowly heal. When you're sympathetic, you want to fix it for them. Therefore, you take power away from the person, telling them that they're not doing it well. The second step is to listen actively and non-judgmentally. Listening is a skill that many people don't hone. When we're practicing our listening skills, allow the conversation to flow before you decide on what to say or what to fix. Pay attention to what is being said and the nonverbal cues that are being communicated. Ask leading or open-ended questions like, what is making you feel this way right now? And avoid dismissive statements like, you're okay, you're gonna be okay, or at least you don't blah blah blah. Additionally, pretending to understand something that makes no sense to you or you cannot relate to makes you disingenuous and untrustworthy. Listen to the speaker and allow them to express themselves, and ask questions so you can understand. Let people process their feelings and profess a readiness for the solution. It is better to listen to understand instead of looking for solutions or to relate with your own experiences. So the third step is to give reassurance and information. Vulnerability is hard, especially for tough people. If someone opens up about their struggle, reassuring that person that there are many people who have these struggles and that there are resources to help them overcome them is the best way to help them. Reassurance sounds like we statements, perspective shifts, and offering options. So, for example, a guilty single parent breaking down can be assured by being told it is common to feel tired, lost, or overwhelmed. We as single parents, or we as parents, do a lot without guidance, and in your case, single-handedly. It's perfectly understandable that you will feel this way. Then continue to offer options to help. I don't know if you're aware, but the community you live in offers thus and such. Whatever your beliefs are, it's never helpful to offer religious beliefs or spiritual guidance or unwarranted opinion unless the person asks. Introspection from a non-judgmental point is one of the hardest things to do. If we are harsh on ourselves, we will be harsh on others. Remember, you cannot determine someone else's strength, capability, and ability to recover or release. So let them do the work. Saying God will provide or the universe has your back adds a level of guilt and shame and annoyance that no one needs to deal with while struggling. Instead, ask the person if they have gone through anything similar in the past, and then help them bring their own strength to mind. While it's human nature to want to offer solutions or make the person feel better, the fact is that it is centered on you, and there is literally nothing you can do or say to make it better in the moment. So say less. If you must speak, offer sincere condolences like, I am so sorry that you're going through this. This must be so difficult. And then offer resources so the person can find a solution or the help that they need. Okay, I think I've beaten that into your brains enough. I'm going to stop now. So next, let's talk about number 4, encouraging the person to seek help. And number 5, encouraging the person to connect with their support system. You know how when someone goes through a really tough time, people have the tendency to say, call me if you need anything, or reach out if you want anything. Well, I have bad news for you. That's an awful thing to say. And here's why. While it may make you feel better for having done something, the person in crisis might not know what they need or how to communicate it. This puts an added level of pressure as if they're not trying. I recently took a mental health first aid course, and one of the things I noticed is that many of the participants struggled with decentering themselves. You see, focusing on how much you care, how much you want to help, or how much you want to be there for them is only for you to feel good about yourself and your input. Someone in crisis is struggling to survive in the moment. Don't ask them to carry the emotional burden of how their crisis is affecting you. Instead, just be there. Be there in person, on the phone, willing to listen. Bring them some soup, rub their back if they're crying, or, just, even if you don't know what to say nothing. Love and care can be communicated non-verbally. Many people have the right intentions, and they say a lot when people are in trouble or crisis, and then they face themselves out right after the initial incident. And they're usually the people who say, call me if you need anything. It's disingenuous and self-centering. Okay. Instead, encourage people to use the resources that are available. Listen to understand and encourage the person in crisis to talk about who they have in their immediate circle that they feel comfortable reaching out to. It might not even be you. Remember the phrase, ask, don't tell. Let people decide how they want to proceed, unless it's an emergency, in which case it is your moral imperative to get them help. So at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that I would be discussing the signs of a mental health crisis and also an emergency and what to do. So far, I've covered what to do if someone you know is in a mental health crisis, what to say and do, as well as what not to say and do. So now let's move on and discuss what to do in a mental health emergency. So a mental health crisis becomes an emergency when treatment is urgently required because you or someone you love are at risk of seriously harming yourself or others. Having a substance abuse problem in and of itself is not an emergency, but an overdose is. Someone in a crisis drinking more is not an emergency, but self-harming, threatening to harm someone else, or being unconscious is. People with mental illness or someone experiencing a crisis have the right to choose to get help voluntarily. Involuntary treatment is only necessary in an emergency. If your loved one has talked about the desire to die, has the means to do so, and has a date in mind, this is an emergency, and you should safely inform the person that you are seeking help for them. Involuntarily admitting someone into treatment can be traumatizing for you and the person you love. So knowing the difference between an emergency and a crisis is key. Once you've determined that someone is in an emergency situation, treat it like you would a physical illness. Keep the person as calm as possible. Speak to someone who can help them, and offer them reassurance and stay with them once it's safe to do so. If the person has the means to self-harm or harm others and you can safely take it away, do so. Otherwise, relay the information to the authorities. When people have mental health struggles, we might not be able to tell from their day-to-day lives, as some symptoms are hidden or stigmatized as lazy, addicted, troublemaking, complaining, belligerent, or obtuse. When people tell you they're struggling, they are trusting you with their fear, sadness, and vulnerability. Treat mental health as any other health and guide the person to seek qualified help. You wouldn't try to perform surgery on someone who needs it. Love is an action. Sitting and listening to someone you love and respecting them is love. Honoring their wishes to seek or not seek help in a non-emergency situation is love. Seeking help for them if they are legally or emotionally incapable and are in danger is also love. All right. So that was a lot of information. Let's recap. Mental health struggles are just as involuntary as physical struggles. Loving yourself or anyone who is experiencing a crisis requires assessment, non-judgmental listening, and offering reassurance, encouragement, and resources. Use the acronym ALGEES, ALGEES, to go through the necessary steps to help someone get help. Assess the situation, listen non-judgmentally, give reassurance and information, encourage the person to seek help, encourage the person to connect with their community, and take care of yourself. Self-care. Check in with yourself, your feelings, and your motivations and boundaries. Make sure you're taking care of your own needs and maintaining those boundaries. So, ALGEES, ALGEES, are the steps that you can use to assess and assist someone, including yourself, that is having a crisis or an emergency. Remember, if someone has a substance abuse or self-abuse problem and are in recovery, the process is not linear, and calling them a junkie, an alkie, or harping on their weakness will never help them get better. We all know when we are at our best, and only the person in the situation knows if they're doing their best at the moment. Be compassionate enough to stop yourself from criticizing and gossiping or causing further harm to the person suffering. Mental health is health, and whether or not the person has a diagnosis or is just being whatever bias you have, insert that here, they have the right to be loved, given space, and given resources and the choice to seek help when they are ready. Be kind, and as always, be safe, be good, or at least Be loved, balanced, and healthy. Enjoy the rest of your week, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh yeah, and subscribe. Share this information to help someone else who's struggling with their mental health or someone who loves them. Bye.
Luxury breathing, but I don't think I'm living. Yeah, my mama be tripping, saying you acting different.